Hi everybody, it's Chris, and today we're reading chapters 22 and 23 of Stargirl. Archie had claimed the Caraways were normal folks, but I still couldn't imagine Stargirl coming from an ordinary home. I think I expected a leftover hippie scene from the 1960s. Make love, not war. Her mother in a long skirt with a flower in her hair. Her father's face framed in mutton chop sideburns saying groovy and right on a lot. Grateful Dead posters. Psychedelic lampshades. So I was surprised. Her mother wore shorts and a tank top as she worked the pedal of a sewing machine with her bare foot. She was making a Russian peasant costume for a play to be presented in Denver. Mr. Caraway was on a stepladder outside, painting windowsills. No mutton chops. In fact, not much hair at all. The house itself could have been anyone's. Glossy bentwood furniture, throw rugs over hardwood floors, Southwest accents, and Anasazi-style wedding vase here, a Georgia O'Keeffe print there. Nothing to proclaim. You see, she came from here. Same with her room. Except for Cinnamon's blue and yellow plywood apartment in one corner, it might have belonged to any high school girl. I stood in the doorway. What? She asked. I'm surprised, I said. At what? I thought your room would be different. How so? I don't know. More you. She grinned. Stack of fillers? A card-making operation? Something like that. That's my office, she said. She let Cinnamon out. He scurried under her bed. This is my room. You have an office? Yep. She stuck her foot under the bed. When it came out, Cinnamon was aboard. I wanted to have a place all my own where I can go to work, so I got one. Cinnamon scampered out of the room. Where is it? I said. She put her finger to her lips. Secret. Bet I know one person who knows, I said. She raised her eyebrows. Archie. She smiled. He was talking about you, I said. He likes you. He means the world to me, she said. I think of him as my grandfather. My inspection yielded two curious items. One was a wooden bowl half filled with sand-colored hair. Yours, I said. She nodded. For birds looking for nest materials. I put it out in the spring. Been doing it since I was a little girl. I got more business up north than here. The other item was on a bookshelf. It was a tiny wagon about the size of my fist. It was made of wood and looked like it might have been an antique toy. It was piled high with pebbles. Several other pebbles lay about the wagon wheels. I pointed to it. You collecting stones or what? It's my happy wagon, she said. Actually, it could just as well be called an unhappy wagon, but I prefer happy. So what's it all about? It's about how I feel. When something makes me happy, I put a pebble in the wagon. If I'm unhappy, I take a pebble out. There are 20 pebbles in all. I counted 3 on the shelf. So there's 17 in the wagon right now? There are 17 in the wagon now, right? Right. So that means you're pretty happy? Right again. What's the biggest number of pebbles ever in the wagon? She gave me a sly smile. You're looking at it. It didn't seem like just a pile of pebbles anymore. Usually, she said, it's more balanced. It hangs around 10, a couple to one side or the other, back and forth like life. How close to empty did the wagon ever get? I said. Oh, she turned her face to the ceiling. Closed her eyes. Once, down to 3. I was shocked. Really? You? She stared. Why not me? You don't seem the type. What type is that? I don't know. I groped for the right words. The 3 pebble type, she offered. I shrugged. She picked up a pebble from the shelf and with a grin, dropped it into the wagon. Well, call me Miss Unpredictable. I joined the family for dinner. The 3 of us had meatloaf. The 4th, guess who, was a strict vegetarian. She had tofu loaf. Her parents called her Stargirl and Star as casually as if she were a Jennifer. After dinner, we sat on her front step. She had brought her camera out. 3 little kids, 2 girls, and a boy, were playing in a driveway across the street. She took several pictures of them. Why are you doing that? I asked her. See the little boy in the red cap? She said. His name is Peter Sinkowitz. He's 5 years old. I'm doing his biography, sort of. For the 10th time that day, she had caught me off guard. Biography? Peter Sinkowitz was coasting down his driveway in a 4-wheeled plastic banana. The 2 little girls were running, screaming after him. Why would you want to do that? She snapped a picture. Don't you wish somebody came up to you today and gave you a scrapbook called The Life of Leo Borlaug? And it's a record, like a journal, of what you did on such and such a date when you were little, from the days you can't remember anymore. And there's pictures and even stuff that you dropped or threw away, like a candy wrapper. and it was all done by some neighbor across the street, and you didn't even know she was doing it. Don't you think when you're 50 or 60 you'd give a fortune to have such a thing? I thought about it. It was 10 years since I had been 6. It seemed like a century. She was right about one thing. I didn't remember much about those days, but I didn't really care either. No, I said? I don't think so. And anyway, don't you think his parents are doing that? Family albums and all? One of the little girls managed to wrest the banana roadster away from Peter Sinkowitz. Peter started howling. But those pictures and those moments are posed and smiling. They're not as real as this. Someday, he's going to love this picture of himself bawling while a little girl rides off on his toy. I don't follow him around like we did Clarissa. I just keep an eye out for him, and a couple of times a week, I jot down what I saw him doing that day. I'll do it for a few more years, and then I'll give it to his parents to give to him when he's older and ready to appreciate it. A puzzled look came over her face. She poked me in the throat with her elbow. What? Huh? I said. You're staring at me really funny. What is it? I blurted. Are you running for Saint? I regretted the words as soon as they left my lips. She just looked at me, hurt in her eyes. Sorry, I said. I didn't mean to sound nasty. How did you mean to sound? Amazed, I guess. At what? I laughed. What do you think? You. I laughed again. I stood before the steps, facing her. Look at you. It's Saturday. I've been with you all day, and you spent the whole day doing stuff for other people, or paying attention to other people, or following other people, or taking pictures of other people. She looked up at me. The hurt was gone from her eyes, but not the puzzlement. She blinked. So? I don't know what I'm saying. Sounds like you're saying I'm obsessed with other people. Is that it? Maybe it was the angle, but her fawn's eyes, looking up at me, seemed larger than ever. I had to make an effort to keep my balance lest I fall into them. You're different, I said. That's for sure. She batted her eyelids and gave me a flirty grin. Don't you like different? Sure I do, I said, maybe a little too quickly. A look of sudden discovery brightened her face. She reached out with her foot and tapped my sneaker. I know what your problem is. Really, I said? What? You're jealous. You're upset because I'm paying all this attention to other people and not enough to you. Right, I sniffed. I'm jealous of Peter Sinkowitz. She stood. You just want me all to yourself, don't you? She stepped into my space. The tips of our noses were touching. Don't you, Mr. Leo? Her arms were around my neck. We were on the sidewalk in front of her house, in full view. What are you doing? I said. I'm giving you some attention, she cooed. Don't you want some attention? I was losing my battle for balance. I don't know, I heard myself say. You're really dumb, she whispered in my ear. Yeah? Yeah. Why do you think there are 18 pebbles at my wagon? And then the last remaining space between our lips was gone, and I was falling headlong into her eyes, right there on Palo Verde after dinner. And I can tell you that no saint was kissing me. And now we're going to read chapter 23 of Stargirl. Those were the best times, when we were alone, together, out of school. We took long walks around town and into the desert to her enchanted place. We sat on park benches and people watched. I introduced her to strawberry banana smoothies. I borrowed the pickup and drove us to Red Rock and Glendale. On weekends, we went to Archie's. On his back porch, we talked of 1,000 things and laughed and swooned in pipe smoke and ate pizza. She presented her oratorical contest speech to Senor Saguaro. We never spoke of the shunning. I loved weekends. But Mondays always followed Sundays, and the shunning, it was clear now, had come to me. It was less absolute for me than for her, but it was there. I saw it in the eyes that shifted away from mine, the shoulders that turned, the chatter that seemed less loud around me now than before. I fought it. I tested its limits. In the courtyard between classes, in the lunchroom, I called out to others just to see if they would respond. When someone turned and nodded, I felt grateful. If someone spoke to me, especially if I had not spoken first, I wanted to cry. I had never realized how much I needed the attention of others to confirm my own presence. I told myself that the shunning was more painful for me than for Stargirl. I told myself that she was too busy being herself to notice that she was being ignored. And in fact, she continued to give her birthday people a ukulele serenade, and to decorate her desk, and to distribute assorted kindnesses. I told myself that even if she did notice, she wouldn't care. I understood why this was happening to me. In the eyes of the student body, she was part of my identity. I was her boyfriend. I was Mr. Stargirl. Students said things, not to me, not directly, but tuned for me to overhear even as they pretended I was nowhere near. They said she was a self-centered spotlight hogger. They said she thought she was some kind of saint. I cringed at that, and that she was better than the rest of us. They said that she wanted everyone else to feel guilty for not being as nice and wonderful as she was. They said she was a phony. Most of all, They said she was the reason why the Micah Electrons were not soon to become Arizona State basketball champions. Kevin had been right. When she started cheering for other teams, she did something bad to her own team. To see one of their own prime in the opposition did something to the team's morale that hours of practice could not overcome. And the last straw, everyone seemed to agree, was the Sun Valley game when Stargirl rushed across the court to aid Kovac, the Sun Valley star. All of this was affirmed by our own star, Ardsley himself, who said that when he saw a Micah cheerleader giving comfort to the enemy, the heart went out of him. She was why they lost the next game so miserably to Red Rock. They hated her for it, and they would never forgive. Unlike Stargirl, I was aware of the constant anger of our schoolmates, seething like snakes under a porch. In fact, I was not only aware of it, but at times I also understood their point of view. There were even moments when something small and huddled within me agreed with it, but then I would see her smile and take a swan dive into her eyes, and the bad moment would be gone. I saw, I heard, I understood, I suffered. But whose sake was I suffering for? I kept thinking of Senor Saguaro's question, whose affection do you value more, hers or the others? I became angry. I resented having to choose. I refused to choose. I imagined my life without her and without them, and I didn't like it either way. I pretended it would not always be like this. In the magical moonlight of my bed at night, I pretended she would become more like them and they would become more like her. And in the end, I would have it all. Then she did something that made pretending impossible. So now we have our questions for chapters 22 and 23 of Stargirl. Our first question is, what does Stargirl do with the pebble wagon under her bed? And our second question is, why was being shunned so hard for Leo?